all the best artists, all the best orchestras are here.
It's been a centerpiece, certainly, of the Romanian culture.
A feast of music.
Cu toții ne amintim de acești ochi hipnotici din filmul care ne-a dat viețile peste cap prin impactul său spiritual de necontestat. Isus din Nazaret, regizat de celebrul Franco Zeffirelli, a fost și rămâne în continuare unul dintre reperele cinematografice din întreaga istorie a cinematografiei universale. Un film care ne-a făcut să ne întrebăm despre scopul nostru pe pământ. Un film care ne-a schimbat viața și viziunea față de tot ceea ce ne înconjoară. O capodoperă a cinematografiei și o operă de artă care ne-a dezvăluit care ar trebui să fie adevăratul sens al vieții. Și toate acestea transmise prin intermediul acelorași ochi hipnotici, ochii lui Robert Powell, actorul care a dat forma fizică și l-a întruchipat pe cel care ne-a salvat de propriile noastre păcate. Robert Powell este unul dintre artiștii de marcă invitați în cadrul Festivalului Internațional George Enescu, ediția 2021. A urcat pe scenă ca narator în lucrarea Potopul a lui Igor Stravinsky, precum și în proiectul Claude Debussy, O viață pasională, ce a fost prezentat atât la București cât și la Sibiu. Două concepte care au înfiorat publicul și ne-au făcut să înțelegem, încă o dată, cât de importante sunt muzica și artele în viața noastră. Stravinsky a conceput inițial Potopul ca pe un spectacol de televiziune, cuprinzând dialog vorbit, cântec și secvențe de balet. Potopul, la noi în țară în prima audiție, este o alegorie biblică bazată pe povestea Arcei lui Noe, în care se combină momentele muzicale, cor, soliști, orchestră, cu dialogul vorbit. Vocea caldă a lui Robert Powell ne-a condus pe firul povestirii biblice în care Dumnezeu creează lumea, o pedepsește prin potop, îl alege pe Noe pentru a o salva și îl binecuvântează. Să îl avem pe Robert Powell aici la București în aceste vremuri grele a fost una dintre cele mai efervescente experiențe pe care le-am trăit vreodată. Și, desigur, o întâlnire uimitoare. O întâlnire cu înțelepciunea profundă, simplitatea, umanitatea, smerenia și bucuria de viață, pentru care mă simt extrem de recunoscătoare.
Welcome in Romania. We are very honored to have you here. What did you know about Romania and what do you know now that you're here? What did you find out about our country?
What I knew about Romania was virtually nothing. I've actually traveled quite a lot over the last 50 plus years that I've been working. I've worked in every continent and actually, oddly enough, I've worked with several languages. Not me speaking them, but I've had Polish coming at me and German and French. And no Romanian. I've never worked with a Romanian. Romania is a really strange place in so much as it is what it is. There are obvious holiday destinations, like Greece, Spain, Italy, France, which one tends to go to. Romania, I suppose, for years, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this, was slightly clouded by Ceausescu, who really did not bring a great reputation to the country. And 1989 was the revolution,
yes, the revolution.
And it was an extraordinary time, wasn't it, in 1989, when the wall came down, when the Soviet Union ceased to be the Soviet Union, and it was the beginning of a great new era. But I was aware over the last few years that because we'd been trying, or let's say I'd been asked if I would like to come here to work or to do a talk, to be interviewed, to do one of my recitals, and for whatever reason, it never worked out. I mean, in fact, last year I was supposed to be here, but COVID put paid to that, and very nearly put paid to this trip. In fact, I was supposed to be here with Mariinsky doing Peer Gynt and Oedipus, but the Mariinsky Orchestra decided that too timid to come. So they decided they didn't want to tour. So that particular project was abandoned, but we had already got a half other project coming with a show I do about Debussy, which involved musicians, you know, our own musicians.
Yes.
So rather than walk away yet again from the project, and particularly as we had other stuff that we were going to do here, it worked out that I would do Stravinsky's The Flood. Now, to be honest with you, when I was unfamiliar with it. I mean, I know a lot of Stravinsky's work, but I didn't know this. I went on YouTube, and there it is. There is an orchestral version with score. I don't read music, but it had the words, and it also had actors doing the part that they asked me to do, the narrator and Noah. And so I listened to it, and it's very short. It's only 21 minutes.
Yeah.
And I listened to it, and to be honest with you, I wasn't that impressed. The music is difficult, very difficult, for me. But also, and I can say this, I hope that the actors are not around, but the actors are rather dull, and they did it in a way that was uninspiring. And this was not the best way for me to be introduced to it. Because when you hear it like that, you think, well, that's how it's supposed to be, because otherwise they wouldn't have put it up there. If that's the way they think it should be done. Because in the score, in the words that I read, there was a lot of humor, but none of it was apparent in the playing of this. So I thought, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to do it, make it funny. So we cut a long story short. I meet up on last Monday evening. We're doing it on Tuesday, we're doing it on Wednesday. But I meet up with Żurowski at. I've only just got off the plane. I'm 10:30 at night, and I meet him for the first time, Vladimir Żurowski with the Rundfunk. I always think that Vladimir and the Rundfunk sound like a really hip band, don't they? So I wish I'd thought of it. I would have loved to have started the band now.
Yeah, he's very open-minded anyway. Vladimir Żurowski is a great conductor and
well, this is it.
And very charismatic.
We hit it off immediately.
Yeah.
I have done quite a lot of work with conductors, and I have done this kind of show of narration music. The bad side of this is I don't read music. I am relatively musical. I sing. But I can't read music. And therefore, I have no idea with an orchestra where I'm supposed to come in. I did a concert where I've done several concerts with Rick Wakeman, who is from Yes, and who is now one of the greatest keyboard players in the world. And Rick is one of my oldest friends. And I've attended and spoken at all his marriages. I've done 3 marriages now. So that's how close we are. And he asked me to do, I've done a couple of albums with him, and he wanted me to do this album about the Gospels, with excerpts from the Gospels, with a tenor, Ramon Remedios, and myself working with him on the keyboards. Well, this is fine, except that when we came to do it, at the Albert Hall, we've got 7,000 people in the Albert Hall, and we've not really done a rehearsal at all. And I said to Rick, you're going to have to bring me in, because I've no idea where to speak. And he said, don't worry. And then when we get there and I look, Rick is about 40 yards away, 40 meters away, surrounded by 3 keyboards, with his back to me. And I thought, okay, this is going to be really tricky. So I said to Ramon, do you know this score? And he said, well, he comes from Liverpool. I said, I know, yeah, with a name like Ramon Remedios, he sings like an angel. And he said, I don't know. I said, well, when do I speak? Because I got chunks of stuff from the Bible. And he said, if I were you, just wait for the quiet bits and say it. So that's how we did it. We took it to Caesarea in Israel. We made an album of it. And that's all I did, is I just waited for the quiet bits. And Rick was never aware. So now I am prepared to work with Żurowski, but this is difficult, because it's music and words really combined.
Yeah, and Stravinsky is a tough one, yeah.
And so we had about 45 minutes together. And then I went back to my hotel room, and the following day, I had my laptop with me, so I played the YouTube just for the music, so I could become really accustomed with it. So by the time we got together again for the rehearsal with the orchestra, I kind of knew it. I'd got a much better sense of it, and I'd also got, I hope, a better sense of the humour. But you had to say to him, just because it looks as if I know it, please don't stop cueing me, because I just need that little bit of help. But he was wonderful. He was closer than you are to me now, so I could see his eyes.
Yes.
He could see my eyes.
Yeah, we recorded that concert. Romanian television was there, and we could see that the eye contact between you and him.
Really?
It was amazing. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, how nice. Oh,
We've noticed that somehow Vladimir Yurovsky is, of course, a conductor, but somehow we can imagine that he could be a film director. He has the orchestra, he has the actors, and he has to direct that play. Yeah.
Well, the really good news is that after we finished, everybody seemed to enjoy it, and there were little elements of it that I say holding back always 5% of my performance. For a live performance, I always hold back something because I like not to know what's going to happen next. I know that sounds weird, but I've always done that, and it actually drives directors mad because they say, we haven't seen your performance yet. And I said, no, you will. But when the red light goes on, you'll see it. But until the red light goes on, I don't want to commit to something. I want it to be a surprise to me, which is bizarre. So I did, and we had a few surprises. And he gave me a hug afterwards, even during COVID, and said, would I do it in England? If he brought it to England, would I do it? And I said, you're kidding. All you have to do is ask, and I'll be there.
And God said, let the water under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life. And God created great whales, and every living creature that moveth. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind. And God said, let us make man in our image.
A skillful beast will I make after my shape and likeness. There which shall worship till me take now the spirit of life. With the female thou shalt get to wife, and receive you of your souls from me. Adam and Eve, your age shall be.
But God had created a power next after himself, Lucifer, son of the morning, whose pride will cast him out from heaven, and who, for revenge, will deceive the mother of mankind.
The wonderful Vladimir and I, we've exchanged email addresses and that. We're just like two buddies, as if we've been working forever. But it is extraordinary how when you meet somebody and you instantly know that you can work with them and you trust them. That's the thing about trust and like. He's a lovely man. Anyway, so that was it. You asked me what I knew about Romania. Actually, I know a lot more than I did when I got here, because on the way from Bucharest to Sibiu, we turned a 4-hour journey into a 10-hour journey and stopped at lots of castles and palaces.
Wonderful.
So I did learn a huge amount. And then when we did the reverse trip, which was yesterday, we did the same thing. And we turned a 4-hour trip into an 11-hour trip. And I was thrilled to discover to discover the house of Vlad Dracul.
Yes.
Because I thought, I wanted that name. I thought, that name, that is a Bond villain. And I want to say, Mr. Bond, my name is Dracul, Vlad Dracul. And you think, that's a real strong name. Like it, or I'm going to change my name to Vlad Dracul. But it only works in that accent. It doesn't really work anywhere else. So yes, I saw Dracula's house. And we saw everything. We had a picnic. So I know more about Romania probably in the last week than I would have done if just, by chance over the last 30 years. It's been fabulous. And added to that is the Romanian people. I mean, when you go to a place and people are indifferent, then it's not very encouraging. You don't really feel the need to come back and visit and explore. But in Romania, it's just the opposite. It's just the opposite of indifference. People, they keep on saying it's an honor, and I go, well, it's only me. I'm just an actor. I'm nothing more than that. I happen to play a part, but I'm only an actor. I have nothing else going for me. So when people say it's an honor to meet me, I get slightly embarrassed. It's, well, I mean, who wouldn't?
But we are sincere.
But I'm here, and I think we'll probably toy with the idea of doing something else, because I've got other things that I do, shows that I can do.
Yes.
But it is extraordinary how working, particularly not necessarily on the Flood, but on the Debussy show, there's a lot of words in it, spoken words. We have 2 wonderful musicians, and I don't know how familiar, I hope our audience is familiar with Debussy, but the hearing Debussy played by flute and piano, it is almost as if it was written for flute and piano. The combination of those 2 sounds is perfect for Debussy-style music. It's wonderful.
Debussy did not believe in God, the establishment, or bourgeois convention.
Nature is my religion.
As he made clear in his letter to his publisher Durand from Dieppe.
18th of August, 1906. Here I am again with my old friend the sea. She is always...
Robert Powell a adus la viață, prin cuvintele compozitorului, personalitatea fascinantă a celui care a fost considerat unul dintre cele mai influente caractere din istoria muzicii universale, Claude Debussy. Carismatic, fascinant, revoltător de neconvențional, posedat de un mare farmec și inteligență, Debussy a fost un adevărat boem, la fel de bine în cluburile de noapte din Montmartre, cât și în saloanele aristocratice ale societății pariziene. Actrița britanică Rowan McCullough s-a alăturat lui Robert Powell în prezentarea femeilor nefericite care au fost vrăjite de acest bărbat ciudat și teribil de complex. Împușcături, tentative de sinucidere, adulter, scandal public, iată câteva momente cheie din viața pasională a lui Claude Debussy.
there are a lot of words.
Yes.
But even, and I know that even I'm reasonably fluent in Italian and French, but I would struggle to listen to a play in those languages and get everything. So I'm very impressed that the audiences seem to pick up most of our story.
Yeah, we hungered for artistic things to happen also in Romania and entire world because of this COVID that interrupted everything, and the public is hunger for more, for music, for arts.
We've had exactly the same thing in the UK.
Yes.
It is the theatres are now just opening after an absence of over a year to have been no theatre at all. And people said, oh, it'll die. And I said, the great thing about theatre is it cannot die because it is unique. It is the only form of performance that you can't do electronically.
Yes.
You have to be in the room for it to, and therefore it can't be superseded. What's going to he said that cinema would supersede it. No. Television would supersede it. Nope. Theatre is still one of the most powerful, 3,000, 4,000 years it's been working. I can't see it stopping again. And I think that we will have a lull, obviously. And the great thing about London, of course, is the theatres. People say, well, the theatres will die. I said, no, they can't. Our theatres are purpose-built, 22 of them. What else are they going to use them for? You can't turn them into hotels because they're all listed. So they, okay, the owners may lose a few.
Yeah.
But that's all right, they can afford to lose a few quid, some of them. But it'll be fine. And I know I see you've got performances now back in
Yes.
Romania, haven't you? Well,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yes.
The mask is a real problem.
Yeah.
The mask is I went to the theatre the other night to see a Tom Stoppard play in London. And fortunately, for whatever reason, the owners of the theatre had decided you had to be double vaxxed. You had to be after two jabs. Which makes a lot of people very upset. The ones who don't want to get jabbed say that this is discriminatory, and to which the answer is yes. Got a problem with that? It's discriminatory. Get vaccinated, come to the theatre.
Yeah.
Don't get vaccinated, don't come. Simple. But they still think that is discrimination.
Yeah.
And I say, no, it's not. It's just the way it is. It's like, you've got a passport. Your passport, in your pocket, lets you get round the world. Do you complain about having a passport? No. You want demand to go everywhere without a passport? No. So if you want to go to the theatre, if you want to go to the cinema, if you want to mingle with everybody else, get yourself vaccinated. It's a very simple equation.
Yeah.
So we sat in the theatre, and 2.25 hours of Tom Stoppard without an interval. Nobody was masked, and it was as you said, it was one of the great experiences to be back in a theatre.
Yeah.
Hearing actors live speak. There's nothing like it at all. Nothing close.
Yeah.
Well, okay, cinema, but not really.
I was thinking about the mask. Perhaps mask forced us to watch each other in the eyes during talking.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a
you
game.
are so totally right. You're totally right. Particularly if and I often say this, okay, I'm going off piste here. Am I all right to just wander around it because I get ideas coming into my head? And I'm particularly working in television with actresses, and they do lots of eye makeup, and I said that's fine. But then they start on their mouths, and I see lots of lip gloss and this, and I say, you have to be really careful. The problem with lip gloss is that it's what catches the eye. And if you find people are looking at your mouths, this is what they should be looking at.
Yes.
Because these are telling the story. The words we can hear. We don't need to see your mouth move. But what we do need to see is your intention in your eyes. But so you have to be really careful that you don't distract. You're absolutely right. So the wearing of the mask, of course, focuses you totally on the eyes, which is wonderful. It's, I mean, I just find them desperately uncomfortable.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Me too. Getting back to the George Enescu Festival, we are very proud of this festival.
Yeah.
Its first edition was in 1958, 3 years after George Enescu passed. And we celebrate this year 140 years from his birth and 60 years of, more than 60 years of this festival. And we have a month of music and joy and arts and things like this, and we are very happy to embrace this celebration. George Enescu was one of the pianists in Les Noces of Stravinsky. Yes, he played in this part. Yes, and he was not very happy to play the violin. He was a violinist, pianist, teacher, composer, and conductor. He always gave his gainings, his money, he gave to the young musicians so they can build their own professional life. He was very altruistic and very, fond of people. He loved people and he loved young people, the young artists. But he never liked to play the violin or play the piano, but he said that he has to do this because he has to earn his living to compose. And that brings me to the famous line in Mahler movie, when Mahler said, I conduct to live, and I live to compose. Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember that very well.
Dr. Mahler, which do you prefer, conducting or composing?
I conduct to live. I live to compose. Now, you have wasted precisely 2 minutes of my time, Mr. Krennic. Why don't you do what I do when I'm teaching the New York Philharmonic to play in time? Beat it.
It's very good. Thank you, Dr. Mahler.
Mahler, it's one of the when people comment on that as opposed to Jesus of Nazareth, my heart lifts, because to me it is a very, I was relatively young. I don't know how, probably about 26, 27 maybe, when Ken Russell asked me to do it. And it was daunting in a way, obviously working with somebody like Ken Russell, who has a massive reputation, and not just for making great movies. He also has a reputation for being one of the most difficult directors to work with. So, but yes, the resonance now of all. Have you seen the film?
Yes.
I think that the opening passage of that film is one of the most thrilling passages I think I've ever seen in cinema. And when I was in Tehran in 1974, just before the emperor was knocked out, doing a film festival. And I was the only representative there. We had Mahler was part of the festival. And so I was terribly aware of this reaction. I'm sitting there in the audience just waiting for the reaction of that one moment in the film, right at the beginning. And it is still, it sends shivers up my spine just talking about it. The music playing, obviously, and the camera very, very gently over various rather odd scenes of the nymph, if you like, on the shingle beach, whatever, being born. And then it pans to the lake, and the camera very, very gently moves across, and it finds this wonderful little wooden hut on a jetty and settles on it. And then the hut explodes on the chord. Now that created a gasp. I've never heard a gasp like it in cinema, right at the beginning of a film. And it stayed with me forever. And I said, the great thing about being an actor is you've got to get or a director, you've got to get the audience, within the first 2 minutes of a film or theatre, get them to go, I'm in good hands, and get them to really relax and not worry about what they're about to see. And that moment is... There are lots of moments in that film. Some are less successful than others, but I'm so glad that when I'm in Romania that people want to talk about it. Nobody ever talks about that with me in England. No, they just don't, and I don't know why. It ran for quite a long time in the 70s, whenever we made it. But I love to be able to discuss it.
My favorite moment in that movie is when Mahler sits with his two little girls, and he talks with them about that piece of us that never dies, the soul that goes to God. And this is very, very emotional. I think for that part is the most beautiful part of fatherhood in the movie. It's very emotional. It's very, I don't know. It was fascinating for me to see that dialogue with the little girls.
There's a part of us that never dies. Part that nobody can see.
How do you know it's there then?
Do you see anything in there?
No.
You?
No.
Now can you see something?
Yes. Now my turn.
Just because you can't see something doesn't mean to say it isn't there.
Like a rainbow?
Something about all of us. Something that nobody can see.
Not even in that?
No.
What is it then?
Some people call it the spirit. Some call it the soul. And that part never dies.
Never?
Never.
What happens to it?
It becomes part of God's spirit. Good night.
It resonated with me too, and I didn't even have children, but and I don't know why. I felt completely at ease with these kids. But I did. I consider myself to be so fortunate that I've been allowed to explore all countries, all styles of filmmaking. I've worked with Liliana Cavani, I've worked with Franco Zeffirelli, with Ken Russell, with Krzysztof Zanussi. I've done 2 films. And I have learned more about life from working with these expert directors than ever I would have done if I'd just been... I trained as a lawyer, believe it or not. And thank God I didn't go there. Thank God I didn't become a lawyer. Because I think I've had a relatively charmed life. I met the girl of my dreams 45 years ago, and we're still married. And I wouldn't change that for anything. So I've had a charmed life.
Yes. And this part of fatherhood example moved me to a wonderful part of Jesus of Nazareth, the essence of motherhood, when Mary sits at the bottom of the cross. And when Jesus is down, she lifts him from the ground, she screams, yes, and she holds him. This is the essence of motherhood. I strongly believe this.
No, I agree with you. And we haven't got time to talk about it really, but it is also the essence of something else. It's the essence of filmmaking at its very, very hardest. As they carried me down from the cross, obviously I'm not allowed to breathe, and this is all being done on one shot, where we have several cameras so they can edit. But we're not going to cut at any point. that piece. And as I'm being carried down and then laid on the ground and in Mary's lap, I am drowning because my head is back and we have a great big tanker full of water pouring the rain in sheets coming down. And of course, I'm in the wrong position. I've got my head back and it's going into my nostrils and down into my lungs. And I'm desperately trying not to drown in those few minutes. My blood pressure dropped by about 3/4 when they finally cut, and I was only barely conscious. And so it is amazing how what you see in the finished product, nobody knows what it took to get there.
Yeah.
It was quite terrifying. But it is a very, very beautiful moment, it is. And also I had Anne Bancroft as Mary Magdalene. I mean, what a gift that is to have Anne Bancroft kiss your feet. It's,
yeah, that moment was somehow hypnotic.
Yeah, it is. And you say it is the image of motherhood, childhood. I'm very much a family person, so it all resonates with me very strongly. I have 2 children. I have 2 grandchildren now. Yeah, I have 2 grandchildren who are the absolute center of my universe.
Yes. How old are they?
The older one is 6 years old, and he is frighteningly bright. I mean, really frighteningly bright. He has to show me how to do things. And the other one is very different, and he's only just 1. And what can I say? I've never known an experience like it. Whenever, 2 or 3 times a week, my son, his father, when he's bathing him, we'll do a FaceTime. And so the first shot I see is this little boy in the bath, who loves bath. And then Barney, my son, says, "Hugo, you've got Grandpa on the phone." And his head turns and he goes, that. You cannot even begin to imagine how my heart is lifted by that, particularly during these last few months. It just, that genuinely, unequivocal joy of seeing his own grandfather. I thought, it makes me cry now to think about it. But yes, my 6-year-old is, he's a little ball. Hey, Grandpa, okay? But the little one, that totally spontaneous, huge grin from ear to ear.
Yes.
It's wonderful. Wonderful.
They come so different on Earth.
Yeah.
Each of them.
I know. They don't come as a set, do they?
No. Yeah.
No, we've. I mean, in many ways, I wish that I was a little younger. But it purely and simply because it is hard work. And my wife and I can cope with 1 each, but it's very difficult to cope with 2.
Yes.
I mean, we manage, but it's we can swap. I can have the baby, and she can have the. I do a joke, which came out of nothing. I was talking to somebody about my grandson, the older one, and I think he was 3. And they said, "How are you enjoying it?" And I said, "He's wonderful, but I do wish he'd learn to walk." And they go, "What? Can't walk when he's 3?" I said, "No, he's still running."
Yes.
He only knows 1 gear, and that is boom, boom. And I can never keep up with him. Yeah. I mean, it's so embarrassing to have to go, "Can you please wait for me?" I have to beg him to wait for me.
Yes, that's wonderful.
But it's a good gag, isn't it? Good joke.
Yes.
Yeah, I like it. He's still running. And he still is. Yeah, he won't walk.
Now is my last question.
Gosh.
I want you to tell me a few things about the documentary, the series, The Real Jesus of Nazareth.
Yes.
Because 40 years ago you were avoiding Jesus, and now you want to get to know him.
It was a huge. I had been to Israel a couple of times, But I thought it was a wonderful idea, and we sat down and worked out how we could do it, and we had no script. And we were there for a month, and it was 38, 40 degrees. We were there in July, in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and well, all over the Holy Land. And with the director, I said, I'm telling you how I'd like to work. And because we'd got, obviously, they'd set up appointments with scripturalists, rabbis, historians, priests, all this. We had that all set up in different locations around the Holy Land. And it was just a question of meeting them and then filming whatever happened. And that's the key. We didn't know. I said to my director at breakfast each day, I said, can you just tell me what you want from today? What it is that ideally you would like to have? What the essence of the story that you'd like? And he'd say, well, I'd like this, that, and that. And I said, right, okay, you'll get it. But please, two things. Do not, if I'm talking to ordinary people, do not tell them who I am under any circumstances, because that will spoil the whole thing. That colors their response to me and whatever. If they don't know who I am, that is wonderful. I love it. And also, I will not be asking those questions that you've asked me to ask. I won't do it. That's not how I work. What I will do is I will talk to them. And during the conversation, because I'm quite skilled at this, I've been interviewed, 10,000 times. So I know that the best way to get something out of somebody is just to lead them gently towards it, but don't look as if that's what you're looking for. And lo and behold, within about 5, 6, 7 minutes sometimes, they give you the answer to a question you haven't even asked. But that was the question you wanted to ask. But if you ask it, suddenly it becomes something else. So I never asked the question. And we got some fantastic interviews, and there was a Mexican priest who'd created this church in Magdala, and I interviewed him. And we were just chatting away about this extraordinary, it's a women's church, it's like obviously Magdala, Mary Magdalene, and it's beautiful, very modern, and lovely. And he said, I have to tell you something. And I said, what that? He said, you're the reason that I became a priest. You see, now this, I kept on getting people saying, you're the reason that I did this, you're the reason that, and the effect of that film, I mean, I never even imagined it could happen. But then the question we were heading towards after is 4 hours of documentary, and the one question we wanted to find out was, the question we were asking was, who was the real Jesus? Who was he? And I did a little coda, I may remember it, or I can't even remember if it's in the film, at the end, and I said, well, we know now, we know the answer. I knew the answer anyway. I said, but the answer is, and this is why, 2,000 years after his death, people are so committed, is because he is whoever you wish him to be. And that's the power of Christianity. It's the power of faith. And it's, oddly enough, the power of the image that Zeffirelli did in the film. Yeah. We created an image that was not, I wasn't going to get any acting awards for it because I didn't do any acting. I just delivered the words and the presence. And people did their own job. They painted their own Jesus onto me. Because everybody has a different vision. So if you give them something that is almost a blank canvas, then you don't get any awards for that. But that, the thousands of letters I got, that was what happened all the time. People said, it is exactly how I thought. You are my Jesus. And it can't be, because they did all the work. I didn't. I just did nothing. I just gave them, a presence. It was a good lesson to learn in. It's down the years it's become very important. But it was a wonderful experience in Jerusalem. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I was not allowed to mention the J word. That was the difficulty. They kept on I had a fixer there, a minder who was glorious. He looked after me. And when we went to a yeshiva, to a school, he said, please, you cannot mention Jesus at all, even though this is what this film is about. They don't know who you are. And you're just there to investigate the education of a young Jewish boy. But do not mention Jesus. I said, why? He said, because we get thrown out. Mm-hmm. Because the very religious Jews are very frightened of Jesus. Because that shows you how powerful that extraordinary life was. Anyway.
Thank you so much.
Not at all.
The forbidden act will forever disobey through the quick chain of love to Adam. Stay thou the salt times of the punishing flood and cleansing blood from a Redeemer's wound will drown its animal sound.
And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth.
All the best artists, all the best orchestras are here.
It's been a centerpiece, certainly, of the Romanian culture.
A feast of music